Hi, this is Susanna Rantanen with Building the Modern Employer Brand podcast. Now, this week I'm going to talk about something that kind of came up in a conversation with the client recently, and that is internal employer branding versus external employer branding. Now, internal employer branding is not the same as human resources management, or is it? How does it differ from external employer branding, or let's say internal communications? Because in the realm of HR and employer branding, understanding the distinctions between internal and external branding is, I think that's really essential for building a strong and cohesive talent branding strategy. And this is an area of the magnetic employer branding method that I've not spoken that much before, as most of my audience and our clients have been more concerned about the external employer branding. But as said, recently one of our clients brought up this topic and the distinction, because being a very modern employer as they are, they now have separated talent acquisition, HR, external employer branding, and internal employer branding into separate functions, separate roles. And this is kind of like directly from my talent marketing team's model. And they asked me for training for internal employer branding. And, that's why in this episode of Building the Modern Employer Brand podcast, I am going to delve into these differences between internal and external employer branding as I have defined them in the magnetic employer branding method and the broader talent marketing team roles concept. And if I'm new to you, my name is Susanna Rantanen, and I am a business coach specializing in talent marketing, employer branding, and also I run an employer branding agency. I work as an employer branding consultant with many modern employers, advising them about strategic employer branding and helping them to create and execute modern employer branding strategies. And this podcast is for those who want to learn how to build employer brands that attract and retain the talents that the business needs for success. To help us navigate this topic, we'll begin by defining these terms, internal and external employer branding. So let's start with internal employer branding. Now, nobody has really defined what internal employer branding is, so I think this is going to leave us with the opportunity to continue defining what it means. And it could mean different things in different organizations, but this is how I look at it, as opposed to external employer branding, as opposed to HR, as opposed to talent acquisition. So internal employer branding, that centers around on how your organization is perceived and experienced by your current employees. I kind of want to add here also your former employees, because I like to treat them as part of your internal audience, even though they're no longer employed by you, but they're not really like the externals either, who don't have that experience as an employee about your company. So external, internal, your current employees and your former employees. Internal employer branding, it delves into the development of your company's culture and employee experiences. And these come directly from the magnetic employer branding method, because that method helps you storify your strategic company culture and your employee experiences into this magnetic, attractive, appealing vehicle of a modern employer brand. Now, internal employer branding also aims to connect your business strategy, your company mission, your customer promise and values with those overall employee experiences and people's career progression, their performance, their success, their achievements, and so on. And this is also directly from my method, because I am a strong believer in business strategies and how to apply any other sort of strategic element within the business to support the business. So that's why the entire magnetic employer branding method is very, I would say, tightly linked to what the business is aiming to achieve. Now, these are all crucial because strong internal employer brand obviously boosts commitment to those business goals, goals of people in their own roles, performance goals, obviously to the company culture, as well as delivering the customer promise. And I find that hardly anyone working in employer branding talks about the importance of customer promise in this work, because at the end of the day, our people are there to deliver that customer promise. I mean, nothing else matters if you don't have customers who are satisfied and who want to come back and buy. So your culture and your values should really reflect on that customer promise. And what are our beliefs and ways of work that help us literally successfully deliver the customer promise or promises, depending on your business? Now, internal employer branding also improves employee engagement and retention and boosts advocacy inside and outside your organization. And this boosting of advocacy, I feel, is really important because obviously most of organizations are going through some kind of a change or transformation. Some of them are further ahead. Some of them are, I would say, just in the beginning of that journey. But I would say that everyone who's still living and breathing are somehow changing and transforming, because growth is all about transformation. When you grow, things change, things transform, they become different. So that boosting of advocacy inside the organization is quite critical and vital aspect of what the internal employee branding can contribute towards. Now, the way that I see this and the way that I have pinned this in the magnetic employer branding method is to develop a strategic company culture that works as a vehicle, kind of like an enterprise system for connecting organizational behavior or building or developing organizational behavior to support the execution of the business strategy. Then connecting each of your roles, each of your performance goals and targets, your ways of work, leadership behavior, leadership expectations, and generally, goals and objectives with the execution of that business strategy. So that's the way that I see. And I know that this can sound very complicated when you first hear about it, but I promise you, as you learn more about it, it will make sense and become very logical to you. And I guess that the easiest way to really grasp this is to see an internal employer branding as a role where you contribute not just to growing internal awareness and commitment to that brand, but also develop that product. I like to call it the product behind that brand. And that product is formed by your strategic company culture and the employee experiences. And it stems from the way that your leaders lead the people, lead the business, and the organization enables your people to experience a better life as a result of being part of this company. So that's kind of the product. Now, as opposed to what external employer branding is. Now, external employer branding focuses on how your company is perceived by potential candidates, job seekers, and the public. And from the sort of the overall public, especially those stakeholders that are vital for your organization and your business. So clients also, partners. So it's mostly marketing and communication. But when we talk about branding, this is something that is where you apply marketing and communication techniques to kind of trigger the emotional response from your audience. So branding is always about emotionally connecting people with what you represent. and inviting them to your employer brand story. I talked about storytelling in employer branding a couple of episodes ago. So if you didn't listen to that or watch that, go back after this episode and check that out if you want to understand more about how to use storytelling to trigger that emotional connection with your employer brand. But I have to say that external employer branding is all about your reputation as an employer, how you treat your candidates, how you build your wider publics and collaborate with your external stakeholders, how you position as a distinct employer and differentiate yourself from your competition. I think this is an area where also, unfortunately, most organizations employee branding themselves fail. And also how you channel your prospects. When I talk about prospects, I mean your potential future job candidates into your recruitment funnel to support that hiring success, to boost the hiring success. So kind of like connecting the cold approach. I'm comparing this now to sales. So when salespeople are doing cold calls and contacting potential clients that they've never had a connection with, or they don't, or the connection hasn't really initiated a conversation in ways that implies that they are actually warm to your services or products. So talent acquisition is like that. We are dealing with kind of cold leads, hoping that those job seekers find us, and they may not know anything about us. And then it's really up to a miracle whether we actually convert them into our job seekers candidates and into the recruitment process and so on. So the role of the employee branding when kind of boosting hiring success, and that's not the only role of external employee branding, by the way. But one important role, obviously, is to help talent acquisition by delivering, kind of like making your cold audiences warm, allowing them to learn about your organization's ways and opportunities and benefits and, the way of work, your mission, your purpose, like inviting them into that employer branding story where they can learn and experience on an emotional level whether your company is for them or not. And that way they become kind of warm through your marketing and communications activities, through social recruiting by your leaders and so on, and kind of channeling them on that candidate journey towards that recruitment funnel where they are they've self-selected to move forward and they are interested to at least discuss those career opportunities when the time is right for them. So external employer branding, it's about crafting this appealing image, employer image that attracts those top talents, relevant talents for a business, builds trust with your top talents, but also with your freelancers, your partner networks, your customers too, and distinguishes your employer brand from competitors. And when you succeed in building this magnetic employer brand, it will not just create your employer brand, but it will actually also grow your company's overall brand value and competitive advantage because it's connected with your business strategy and your customer promise. So let's next explore some of the key differences between internal employer branding and external employer branding. Now, one of the key distinctions I think lies in the audience. So internal branding targets obviously your current workforce, but also your alumni if you want to use that as an opportunity to get people to sort of return back to your organization. While external branding reaches the broader external audience, but more specifically, you should really target it towards specifically on your potential future employees and the general public who may become your potential employees over the coming years, or they know your potential employees and can advocate for your company. Messaging also differs. So internally, you obviously emphasize reinforcing company values, company culture, fostering employee engagement and career development. And what is highly critical during these times also is clarifying those organizational changes, supporting change communication, and getting that employee buy-in for those changes and transformations that are driven by management, in which areas they are affecting, because that changes obviously in organizations. Externally, it's about showcasing your competitive advantages. What's different and unique about your organization as a place to work, as opposed to the other options that your prospects have. Making the company culture and values more transparent, helping external stakeholders understand whether they see themselves as part of your story and how your company can help them to build a better life and solve those, what I call career riddles, that are making them wonder whether their current situation continues to offer them what they need or not. Now, communication channels also differ between internal and external employer branding. The most effective communication channel for internal employer branding, I believe, and in my experience, are the team leaders and other managers. If this is not in your organization, this is definitely an area of a lot of potential to grow into your most effective communication channel. So internal employee branding people should be supporting your team managers, team leaders, and other managers to deliver those key messages systematically and fostering a dialogue, which is key to successful internal employee branding. I don't think that your intranet and things like that are your most effective communication channels. Now, and that's why I think actually that employer branding, internal employer branding, also benefits from external employee brand communication, as most employees actually are better reached on social media than on the company intranet. And this is where internal and external branding collaborate closely, giving each other content and content ideas to share. Externally, the most effective communication channels for employer branding continue to be social media. I mean, there's just no way around it. The choice of social media depends on your target audience preferences, their profiles, your location, but the main social media tend to reach the best because they're the largest, have the widest audience available for you. And as your target audiences move forward on their candidate journey with your company, external channels can include email, other direct messaging, for example, on WhatsApp or Slack or social media, even meeting online or, surprise, in the outside world. Now, what we should not forget about are the goals and objectives, because they also differ. And I can't stop, and I won't stop highlighting data-driven employer branding, even though I know that this data and data analysis scares a lot of people working with employer branding. But you really have to see it as a gift for you. This is the feedback that you crave on how your employer branding activities and actions are working or whether they're not working. Data is your feedback. Nobody else can give you as precise feedback as data. So it's just a kind of a love story that you just need to kind of get into. Take your baby steps if you need to, but just do it. And I actually had an episode on data-driven employer branding a while back ago as well. So that's another tip to rewind back to it. But I have to say that data-driven employer branding is just so imperative to understand the value for you personally and your work when you know what success looks like and you can explain it to others in the most simple ways. And that's what you need for your buy-in. By the way, next week, I'm going to talk about stakeholder management and getting that buy-in, because that's, I think, what many of you are struggling with. So in internal employer branding, your goals and objectives reflect directly in employer satisfaction to how well they understand what this company strives for, what are their career development opportunities, how they contribute to the company mission, what working according to your values and company culture means. And furthermore, decreasing retention is a great objective for internal employer branding. We have to understand that these are also have quite a lot to do with communication, internal communication, and supporting that, emphasizing that, clarifying messages, bringing in the right messages, and so on. So you still need your other internal stakeholders to support with achieving that satisfaction among the employees on these matters. So in end, external employer branding, the goals and objectives obviously stem from employer awareness, employer brand affinity, and your employer brand's level of attractiveness, making talent acquisition faster and more cost-effective, and increasing the quality of applicants available for the recruitment interviews. So different types of goals and objectives, internally and externally. Now, I bet you want to know what's common between internal and external employer branding. And I would have to say that, first of all, the transparency is crucial for both employees as much as external audiences also appreciate your honesty, your authenticity, and consistency in your messaging. So building a strong company culture is vital because it helps to create a unified brand image. Additionally, I would say that storytelling is a powerful tool for both realms. So sharing stories of your employees' success and growth does not only inspire your current people, but also your potential hires. It's definitely an area of shared interest and valuable for both internal and external employer branding. Then another one that kind of struck my mind was technology, because that plays a role in both, although it is being applied differently. So internally, it may be used for communication, collaboration, sharing information, meaning like files or things like that, content. While externally, it's often about your online presence, automating some marketing tasks, measuring online impact, generating recruitment leads to the recruitment funnel. And to some extent, you will also work closely together. And to another extent, you have different stakeholders who you collaborate with more closely than with each other. So what comes to communication and marketing, you do or you should work very closely, kind of feeding each other. But equally, what comes to generating marketing data, target audience data, you should definitely work closely together. And this is an area where, my advice, my strong recommendation is to include your talent acquisition in this mix too, because they have an awful lot of information and understanding, knowledge about the market, the talents, through their work, as they speak to a lot of prospects all day long. So they have a lot of understanding of the needs and the reasons why people change jobs, why they consider your company, what other options they have. So this is kind of stuff that you definitely want to know. Internally, you need this information also to help stay competitive, to make sure that what you offer is competitive with the external competition. And externally, you need the same information to win competition, because you want to win the attention over your competition. Okay, to some extent, and depending on your personal competencies, your skills, your interests, internal employer branding, I would say, also collaborates closely with team leaders, HR, and people who are dedicated into working with your company culture, benefits, as well as internal communication. And external employer branding collaborates closely with marketing and PR. Okay. Because I talk so much about data-driven employer branding, you really want to know, it benefits when you know what success should look like for internal employer branding. Now, success in internal employer branding is marked, as said, by deeply engaged employees who understand and who embrace your company values. That's the point when your employees become brand advocates, because that love is just pouring from their hearts, isn't it? So both within and outside the organization, they will advocate when, they're deeply engaged. Reduced turnover and increased productivity, I think those are also indicators of success for internal employer branding, as well as commitment to adjust to new strategies and changes in the organization. Reducing this change resistance in your staff I mean, that can be in a huge role for someone working in internal employer branding, I have to say. So to sum it, internal employer branding is meant to help the organization with retention, boosting morale, especially in organizations that are going through drastic changes. And there is this level of change resistance and uncertainty at place. Also, to excite employees to deliver that customer promise and contribute to the business success together, excite them to accept the change and see the benefits waiting ahead when this change has taken place. Now then to what success looks like in external employer branding. Now, external branding success is measured by attracting top talents effortlessly, having a strong employer reputation in the job market, and maintaining a loyal job seeker and customer base. Also, I cannot stop emphasizing more how important employer branding is for organizations who sell services and their people's knowledge. It's about standing out from competition, having a consistent and positive and exciting, attractive, magnetic, I would say, online presence. So to sum it up, both internal and external employer branding are indispensable elements of a successful HR marketing strategy. I would say that companies should be investing a lot more into both to creating that positive, consistent, and compelling employer brand, because that will then help attract and retain top talent while also build trust and loyalty with your existing employees, but also with your customers, clients, stakeholders, partners, other collaborators. What are your thoughts about this week's topic? Is internal employer branding something that you've been working with? I have a client who's new in this role, and she has not been able to really find much information about this topic. I think she'd be excited to connect, for example, on LinkedIn with others who are working on this kind of internal employer branding that I've described in this episode. So if you are that person, let me know on LinkedIn and I shall connect you with her. I think she would love it. You can share notes on your roles and learn from each other. Alrighty, that's all for this week, my friends. Wrapping up this week's episode of the Building a Modern Employer Brand podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave me a review. And don't forget to share this episode with your HR and employer branding and marketing and communications colleagues, because I think having that shared understanding of what internal and what external employer branding is and how to collaborate, what the success looks like and so on will help you do wonders together. And that's the most important thing, as you're all working for that same organization. So you should be having the same goals, the same objectives, the same mission to accomplish together. So stay tuned for more insightful episodes on mastering the modern employer branding edge. As I said, my name is Susanna Rantanen, and I'm your guide to building the modern magnetic employer brand. Until next week, moi moi.